Hello and welcome back to another episode of Transport Fever 2. In this episode, we'll be stepping away from passenger travel and look to getting a much larger fuel operation going on. So currently right now on this map, the only spot that we're making fuel is over here. However, it's not really situated in a good part of the map for us to ship it to many of the other cities that are on the map, and that's largely because it's on the edge. There's not really any water nearby where we could ship it by boat, and really it's just a long distance from a lot of places that need it. So I think over here in this corner of the map where Birmingham and Santa Clarita sits, we have all the resources we need to set up a fuel line, and we even have the fuel refinery and oil refinery sitting very closely next to each other, and we might even be able to get them to share a port if we're lucky. So first, let's test out that theory by connecting these two roads, and it looks like we'll have some terrain collisions, so let's first just flatten out the area. We'll come back and make this look good once we're all finished up, but we can come through, place that down, and let's see if we can get a cargo harbor situated where it might be able to reach both industries. And it looks like if we place this just right, we can connect to both the oil refinery and fuel refinery. So this will be good for bringing in oil by boat from probably here or maybe even these two oil wells and having them come over here, where then we could probably just easily by truck move it right down the road to the fuel refinery, which then can send it out at that cargo harbor by boat to wherever we need it, which at the moment realistically is probably Scottsdale. So that'll end up over here at our larger port. So first, let's get this area set up with the port so we can have it function how we want it to. And I think we'll want a pretty straight road so we can get a nice easy connection to the harbor. So we'll do that, and then I think we'll just bring this road straight down. So we get a little bit of some sharp corners, but I think that'll be fine. And then what we can do is just come in here, grab this cargo harbor, set it to large, and it looks like the way we set up the roads, we might just be out of reach for both of them. So we might have to do some tweaking to get this to be pretty much perfect. Alright, so we did have to redraw some of the roads, but now we have them at a spot where we can place this down and connect to both industries. So we can do that, and we can then flatten out this area, give it a little bit of space, and then we can just smooth out the coastline really quick to make this look more natural. So I think this is just about as big of a cargo port that we'll need for now, and that should be a good enough spot for us to begin bringing oil from some of these oil wells right over to the oil refinery. So I think we're going to get oil from this oil well here to start out with, just because since there is two right over here, if we do need to quickly expand to meet demands, all we would have to do is simply connect up this one that's on this island up to our cargo port, and then that would have easy access to those other industries. So next, obviously, all we have to do is just get a nice road in here where we can fit one of these in, and if we get it rotated the correct way, we should be able to get this in here pretty easily. We might need to pull that road back a little bit more. Actually, let's place this first, and then we'll deal with making it fit. So let's go something like this, and then we'll have to figure out how we get the roads in here to get it to align the way we want. Alright, so we'll stick with something like this, and then we'll just flatten out the bottom of this river here to accommodate some of the ships that'll be coming through, since it'd probably need to be a pretty deep river. Give it a quick smooth around the edges, and quickly fix the water behind the dock. And I think we're good to start detailing the oil well, at least. So of course, let's start by giving ourselves a nice blank slate to work with. So we'll level this whole area out to match the level of the industry. So something like that. And then we can get in here and start to think about where we want to place some of these assets and the terrain that we want to have it sitting on. Alright, so now we have a pretty good idea of where a lot of the larger assets are going to sit in this area. We sort of wrapped around this road so it connects over with this little dirt area. And so I think we'll just finish off this fence and just sort of bring it around and close all this up. And then we can get into the finer details and terrain painting. Alright, so here is our oil industry. I think we'll keep it like this. We'll leave some of the port details to a minimum for now, and we can come back later if we have time after we set everything up. But I'm really happy with how this came out. I think what we added really blends in well with the existing industry. So we'll leave this as such and move on to detailing these two areas. So let's start out over here by the oil refinery. We'll start out by flattening the area as usual. Let's actually get this turned all the way up just to make sure it's actually flat. And then we'll want to get rid of all of these trees and other things. And I think we'll try to fill in this area with some oil refinery assets. And here we now have our oil refinery area all done up. We have our truck station over here with a warehouse for those goods to be stored. And we have our extension of the production area over this way, which includes these two buildings, this building, and then just some open areas for storage and parking. So I think this area is good enough for now. We might fence it in later, not too sure yet, but now we can move over here to the fuel refinery, which I'm not too sure how much we'll do since this base industry doesn't really fill out much of the space anyway. So we might need to let it upgrade first before we really see how we can expand upon it. But once we have that set up, we can then get our vehicles running and see how well this all works. Okay, and I think this is pretty much all we're going to do with the fuel refinery. So we have this building here and then a bunch of storage containers. So let's leave it at that and get into setting up our vehicles and our routes and seeing how much money we can really make with this kind of line. So firstly, I think we're going to need boats, and we have a boat depot somewhere around here. I think we might have to come all the way back over this way where our food processing plant is, and we can see here we have a few ships that are pretty good at carrying fuel and oil. So I think we'll go with these Vandal boats, and for the crude oil we'll get 4 of those running, since I believe we need more crude oil for the ratio of crude to refined oil. So we'll do that. And then of course we'll want to make sure that we're only loading crude and unloading it over at this industry. And then next we'll want to get some trucks. And these trucks will take the refined oil from the oil refinery. So from this truck station over to the fuel refinery. So then we'll have to set this correctly. And then from there, the fuel should automatically head over to this port, where we'll then send it over to our Jackson port, where we'll have trucks bringing it into Scottsdale. So I think let's grab 3 more of these Vandal ships, and these will take fuel from the fuel refinery over to the city of Jackson, and hopefully we can find an open landing for that. We'll have to adjust it in just a second. So then over here we'll have this new line come in right about there. So now that we have that set up correctly, we should see here we have some crude oil beginning to build up at the port, and it'll take a while for these ships to get there, as I believe this is our fleet of crude oil ships. So we'll have to wait a little bit before we see the sort of balance we have between vehicles, but while we wait, let's then set up our fuel network over to Scottsdale. So looking here at Scottsdale, it looks like we can just reuse this truck station for the fuel, and there's a decent demand. It's not the most, but it's also not the least either, so I'd say 6 trucks would probably do us good, and we'll have those come from that truck station over to this truck stop. And then after we set this up, we should be pretty much good to go. All we have to do is wait now. So while we're waiting for the fuel line to start running and producing fuel, looking here at this port, it looks like our truck station's getting very busy, as we almost have a pretty much constant flow of trucks coming in and out of here, which doesn't seem to be too terrible at the moment, but I think somewhere in the near future we're going to have to redesign this whole port area to have a more efficient entry and exit out of this truck station, since we're pretty much having 2 cities worth of goods flowing in and out of here, and these cities are going to require eventually all 6 end product goods that we can produce. So we're not too far off of that, and we definitely want to be ready for when we expand to that. Alright, now we have our first ship with crude oil coming in, and any moment now we should see if this functions how we hope it will. So this should come in, drop off all the crude oil, and we see that gets immediately dumped into the oil refinery. So that's beginning to populate this truck station, and these trucks are now taking that oil over to the fuel refinery. So in a moment, once this truck gets all the way over here, we should then see this fuel refinery begin making fuel that will show up right here at this port. So here comes that truck to drop off the oil, and coming over here we can see now the fuel beginning to fill up on this dock. So whenever our next ship comes that is heading over to Jackson, which might not be for quite a bit of time since we only have 3 of those running on here, we should then eventually see fuel making it to Scottsdale. But for now, I think I'll consider this a success and leave it here. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions or feedback, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching and have a great day.